Hello and welcome to the Above Average Podcast, the only AA meeting worth attending and the only refuge for the above average. I'm your host, Lake, and with me as always is my co-host, Tanim. Tanim, how you doing?
What's up?
Quarantine, man. Quarantine has got us down. Quarantine has got us down to the extent that we've had to readjust to not record this in person. So this is our first attempt at
Remote
make yeah
podcasting.
yeah
I
we're
mean, yeah,
we're online working now.
as everyone is, I guess, who are employed now, I guess.
Yeah, so far not so bad. Not so
Yeah.
bad. I get to sit in a comfier chair. We don't have to be stuck in my tiny apartment. So
I mean, at least we don't have, like, those curfews yet. I mean, cross your fingers, right?
that's true. At least we're not Montreal. But
Or in
it,
France.
I think the worst part about this one is like before when there was no end in sight really there's hope to it, but now we know for sure like it's not going to get better until like September. So that's like, I don't know, that's so instead of like having the false hope I could you know stop this in April,
Right.
I have to be confronted with the reality of it. Also, I'm too fortunate and healthy to actually get my vaccine, so I'm going to be one of the last people vaccinated.
I think it's later for you. I think it's like around December.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right. So, like, yeah,
Yeah,
you have the elderly that are getting there soon, and those by age.
yeah, you have yeah, because you have people with compromised immune systems, old people, I guess people in the military who are going to be distributing the vaccines, doctors,
Frontline
um,
workers, yeah.
yeah, frontline workers, and then like further down the list, like healthy people who can like aren't like frontline healthcare workers, but like still have to do their work, who are still essential workers and have to do their work in person, like warehouse workers, auto mechanics, gas station people.
Also, I was reading that they were talking about the different type of vaccines, and I don't think you can choose which vaccine you get. So you just gotta like hope you get one of the better ones. But I mean, every vaccine helps, right? But there's the Pfizer and the Moderna one that's like 92% effective, and there's I think the AstraZeneca that's like 62% effective. So
Yeah,
you you get
and
what
then
you
you have
get.
the what is it, the Sinopharm one, the Chinese one that's what is 70% effective, something like that, but it's way lower. But yeah, no, it's kind of a shame. I think because it, you know,
And there's still a lot of people who don't want to get the vaccine at all. But I mean,
which
that's a
I mean,
whole topic in itself.
yeah, no, like I mean, we could go on and on about the anti-vaxxer thing, and I mean, the obvious point of it is like it's not rational. Like the anti-vaxxer thing is not rational. It's like adults with a fear of needles who want to justify it. When you're a kid, you can just say like, "Oh no, it hurts. I don't want to do it." But as an adult, you need to come up with a whole conspiracy theory.
The whole where you get your information from and
Yeah,
everything about it affects this, or you get sick after a couple of days, or
yeah. I
every,
mean, yeah, like a lot of symptoms of illness is just like regular illness, like colds and such, is just like a lot of the symptoms is just your immune system
dealing with it. Yeah,
fighting, yeah, dealing with it, like the swollen throat, the fever, that sort of thing. So like if your immune system's like adjusting uh or is trying to fight this virus it thinks it has, to so it gets the antibodies for it, like you're gonna have a reaction, and like
right. And
that's
not everyone's gonna have the same symptoms and reactions to it. Some people will get sick, and some people will just not
yeah, but
have any
like
effects.
yeah, generally it's okay if we're like your risk of the vaccine, the point of it all is like the risk of getting the vaccine is going to be way less than the risk of actually getting the virus.
Right,
So
and also the vaccine doesn't make you immune to COVID. It just makes it so that your body's able to fight it off if you do get it. It's just similar how the flu shot works.
yeah, Oh, man, I was actually okay. So here's an ethical question about the COVID vaccine. So as you know, we have like a vaccine shortage, and the Queen of England was one of the first people to get vaccinated, and a part of me was thinking, you know, fuck you. The Queen is not going to die of COVID because, like, the Queen could just lock herself away from the peasants and she'll be fine.
I mean, she
Yeah,
can. She is one of the in that range of the high risk individuals.
no, I know, and that's fair. But like, and then she also has access to all the healthcare in the world. Like, it's like when Boris Johnson got COVID. Like, there's no way he was gonna die because, like I think like maybe I'm wrong on this, but it seems to me like the real risk of dying of COVID is like triaging, like just that the system will get overwhelmed and won't be able to deal with everyone, so you'll die because the doctors have to deal with someone else. Whereas that's not going to happen to the Queen or Boris Johnson.
Right. I
Um,
mean, they have more resources than like, people who do.
exactly. Like, you know, leaders just don't die. Like, remember Robert Mugabe, the president of Zimbabwe? So, like, he lived until he was 90 something, and I think 96. I'm actually just going to look it up right now.
Right.
Robert Mugabe. So, Robert Mugabe lived until he was 95. Okay, so really old, and he was pretty senile by the time he died. But he didn't die in Zimbabwe. He died in Singapore, like getting medical treatment.
Right.
Yeah, and apparently, one thing I want to talk about at some point is African dictators have actually led the way in remote working because a lot of them, not a lot of them, but a couple of them, uh, live in places like Singapore or London and
And
kind
have
of
the
just
best
phone
healthcare.
exactly have the best healthcare and just phone in being president. So
Right. They, they,
Mugabe was kind of being
they,
president from
they're the
Singapore.
original remote workers.
Exactly. See, the I think it's the president of Benin was living in Paris the whole time, and the current president of Nigeria was spending most of his time in London, ostensibly for cancer treatment. But I mean, you can't really like if someone stages a coup against you and you're in London, like yes, you'll get kicked out of power, but you'll already
You're
be
still
in
alive.
exile. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Because like if these guys escape, they all go into exile to London anyway. So it's just a funny state of affairs that you can now have like guys remotely ruling a country.
Right. I mean, they're protecting their own safety, I guess, and their families.
Exactly. Oh, sorry. So that was kind of a tangent, but my point with Queen Elizabeth was that on the one hand, she has access to pretty good health care, so uh, maybe it was a good idea to leave the vaccines for other people first. But on the other hand, they were saying it was good that she got the vaccines because lots of old British people will see the Queen getting the vaccine and think like, oh, if it's good enough for the Queen, it's good enough for me.
Right.
I'm gonna do as the Queen does and get the vaccine. So like using her power as kind of an influencer of the British public to encourage vaccination. So
Right.
and then another celebrity was saying like I don't want to get the vaccine first because I'm healthy, I have good access to healthcare. I think it should go to other people first and then I'll get it.
Right. They
So
don't want to be the test threats.
not even that. It's more that like I'm pretty healthy and I don't I'm not a nurse, so like I definitely don't deserve to get the vaccine first. Um, so like is it more ethical? But if I have like influence over a large number of people, is it more ethical to like get the vaccine and then um and demonstrate it to all my followers, kind of lead by example, or is it more ethical to kind of leave the one vaccine I would take up um, for the general
Right. I mean,
public?
a lot of celebrities are in that situation. A lot of them can skip the line and get their vaccines. But do they do that? I mean, some may have.
because they can pay
Right.
for it.
Well, that's what exactly. But do they want to skip in line and take the like ethical choice and not do that?
Yeah,
So
yeah, and yeah, like you're saying, it's kind of different if you're healthy and you can kind of pay to skip the line. Then it's kind of dickish, but
which a lot of people have
yeah,
done.
yeah, no. But on the other hand, I understand. Like, I would like my vaccine as soon as possible, but
We just gotta wait in line.
just gotta wait until October, December. But
I
god,
mean, I'm glad we didn't open things up like they were saying that they would be, because that just repeats what happened before we opened it up and people went out, and then the amount of cases went up, and then we locked everything down. Right? I mean, I get it
yeah,
from a business standpoint to like keep businesses obviously in business that need that money, but city
yeah,
perspective and like getting people sick, if they opened everything up back again, it would have been again the same thing.
yeah. Like whether or not, yeah, because otherwise we're just
Right.
fluctuating.
And I know a lot of people who, at least in Toronto, are just kind of sick of it, and they would go to like Oakville because like things are open there, or like Woodbridge and stuff, and then they would come
Yeah,
back. So they'd be the ones who pretty much would be like spreading the virus because they would go there to like go to a bar or whatever and come back again.
yeah. Well, and that's part of the problem. Like you can't really isolate individual municipalities. Like you kind of have
Because then
to
everyone would just go there
do
and
the
then come back.
whole. Exactly. Well, like especially if like you live on the border. Like let's say you live on Steeles Avenue, where like the south side is Toronto and the north side is like Vaughan and
Right.
Markham. So in that case, like you might already normally go to a grocery store on the York Region side of Steeles Avenue. So it's I don't necessarily think you're doing anything wrong because like a lot of people would do that normally, like kind of without
Right.
thinking. But because it's like the boundaries of cities are just arbitrary.
Yeah.
Like they're lines in the sand. They're not like natural barriers.
I mean, I don't know how they do it, but
So
it's definitely based on population density.
yeah. So but what I'm saying is like you can't, especially with like the GTA, you can't lock down like one city in the GTA and not the whole GTA. I don't think it works
Right.
that way.
Everyone's gonna flock to whatever's open, and then
Yeah, exactly. Like it's this segment of it is difficult because like the end is in sight, but it's far away.
yeah, it's still work in progress.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, now like we're gonna have like the full year under lockdown. So meaning we've now had every major holiday.
Which is a good, not a good sign. I
No,
know
probably
people are
not.
going
Because
crazy anyways, and now
yeah,
have to celebrate it indoors with either the people they
yeah.
live with or
Uh,
no one.
you know what the worst part about it is? I have to be creative for holidays. So like Valentine's Day, like normally I could just say like, oh, let's. There's like a million options open to me. I can kind of do a last minute like, oh, let's go eat out at this restaurant, go see this movie, go see this
Plan it
play,
all out, right?
etc.,
Yeah.
etc. Plan it all, and it's easy. But like now, I got to be like creative and do shit from home, and
What did you end up doing this year?
I can't do that. Like, well, oh, we like
Order in food.
ordered some
Yeah.
stuff in, had candlelit dinner, that sort of thing. Everyone's trying to be creative. Like my mother, like one upped me, and held my stepdad's birthday at a bar.
Right.
Like, but like her friends like own the bar, and it was just them at
A
the bar,
non-socially
so it
distant
wasn't
bar.
in
Right.
violation. Yeah, but it was just literally just them at the bar, so like
Yeah.
it it was fine. So like now I got to compete with everyone.
I think this is COVID started around March, but wondering how people's Valentine's Days went this year. It's all everyone's got their own opinions on Valentine's Day, if they like it or not. What's your thoughts on
I am extremely against it.
Same.
It's So from to me, it just kind of like represents like the industrialization of relationships, just in the sense that like we create arbitrary social rules to serve, like not to serve the health of
No, commercial
relationships, but to
reasons for
serve,
sure.
yeah, commercial reasons. Yeah, exactly. Like the whole wedding ring industry. So like between this podcast and the last one, I got engaged. I had to buy a wedding ring, or sorry, an engagement ring, and um, the gap in what wedding rings cost is insane. Like you can get a nice ring for like under $1,000, like with lab created jewels and that sort of thing, and still made of
No,
gold,
no
still
blood
everything.
diamonds.
But yeah, so I have a thought on that in a minute, but like a Tiffany's ring costs like twenty thousand
You gotta
dollars.
spend, what was it,
Like
2 3 months paycheck?
yeah, exactly. And De Beers just
Yeah,
made that shit up. Like they just said like, oh, you got so like they're
with a
inventing
marketing campaign.
exactly. They're inventing social conventions to serve their bottom line, like
Right.
and like trying to shame people for not paying the money for overpriced junk.
They needed a reason for people to buy their jewelry and
Exactly.
wedding.
Like 3 months salary, man. Fuck you. No. Like how much I make in three. Like I'm not the highest paid person in the world, but that's definitely more than I would ever spend on jewelry. Like by a huge margin, by like an order of magnitude. See, so you mentioned blood diamonds before, and I thought it's probably cheaper to, instead of buying a ring, um, go to somewhere in West Africa and like pay for the flight there and back. Go to like Sierra Leone and like find bush diamonds. But then I realized that
Probably get jacked.
yeah, like I'd have to like drive around the wilderness of Sierra Leone, like waving around a wad of cash. They're saying like, "Hi, is this where the illegal diamond mine is? I want to buy some diamonds, and I have lots of cash." Just be like the only North American for thousands of miles, just with like alone with a large wad of cash, like
And them
looking
sticking their AKs at you.
exactly. So like I don't know. I feel like that would not go over well,
Right.
especially for like because there's like a whole process of registering legal diamonds like officially, like called like the Kimberley process. To get the big discounts, you'd have to go to like an illegal mine to get like to get the really cheap stuff, like just
Right.
from like dudes and shovels in the backwoods. Like, and they wouldn't necessarily be blood diamonds because I think Sierra Leone's civil war is over. They're just off
I'm
the
sure they're
books.
branded to something
Yeah,
else.
they're off the
Yeah.
books diamonds. Like they're legal. They're black market diamonds, basically.
Ethically sourced.
Yeah, like which may you could argue that though, like because like guys just on their own initiative going into the woods and digging out diamond pits with shovels, that's more ethical than like
Someone forcing them to do it.
yeah, or even like the legal diamond mines in South Africa where like the guys are like underpaid and most of the money goes to like their white bosses who like
Right.
union bust them all the time. So that's my position. Blood diamonds should be legal. We got pretty good at making lab gems, like really really good. So for example, lab grown sapphires are actually better than natural sapphires. So I think sapphires are graded in their clarity from A to quadruple A, which is kind of bullshit. Like, how like they don't want to have like a low grade, so they call the lowest grade A. So it's
Right.
like,
So just through association, you're like, oh, it's not
yeah,
bad. It's an A.
exactly. Yeah, it's not an F grade diamond, even though that's what it is, or an F grade
Right.
sapphire. It's like Starbucks' thing where they don't call any of the sizes small. They call it like a tall and a grande and a vent. So like all of them mean large kind of thing. It's the same principle but with jewels. But so like all lab created sapphires are quadruple A sapphires, which would cost thousands of dollars normally, but they're like hundreds of dollars as lab sapphire. There's no reason to like, and you can't tell the
Unless
difference.
you know that industry sapphires.
Even then, like the way you know a sapphire is lab created is it's too clear. Like the clarity's too high. Like it's too good. Yeah,
Unrealistic.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's unrealistically good, which is I don't know. I think I think there's no reason to pay for natural
I
jewels.
mean, you're in the ring business. I mean, ring shopping business, so
Yeah, yeah.
you would probably know better than
I
most
did. Yeah,
recently.
I did a lot of shopping on that, and I got to I managed to narrow things down because I had a big list of
Potential.
or like preferences, just like likes this cut, not this cut, wants this color, wants these halo gems, that sort of thing. So
Right.
but there's so many options for gemstones, like emeralds, peridots, aquamarine, sapphires, rubies. Uh, you ever see alexandrite?
No.
Alexandrite's this crazy black stone with like shimmers of green and yellow in it, and red.
It's kind of like is it like onyx?
Onyx is like a little more black. Like Alexandrite's kind of it has more of like a purple sheen to it, like a
Right.
purpley blue sheen. But it kind of it changes color depending on how you look at it. Really pretty. But my point is like with all these great gems, I don't know why everyone would pick diamonds, which are sparkly. Just the most boring jewels imaginable. Like a Tiffany's ring is just ugh. Like it's just like white gold with a white stone. So it's like gray on white.
Right. I mean, I think also back diamonds were just like the thing you would get. No one knew about other options. Just like how everyone wanted gold back in the day.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, but now it's not even gold. Now it's like
Right.
silvery color. Everyone's so allergic to color these days. I hate it.
Everyone wants their Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for Valentine's Day, like, do you feel like it's fairly like one sided? Do you feel like both people in the relationship
Well,
equally are into it, or is it more kind of
Well,
one sided?
there's a difference between like how society views it and like how me and my partner do it. But me and my fiance were like pretty good at sharing things, like at her insistence. But a lot of the financial pressure is put on men, like because like the entire industry operates on shame, like and like saying
And guilt.
yeah, yeah, shame and guilt, but like saying like you are not a real man unless you it's trying to play on this like you're not a real man unless you can provide, and you're not providing unless you pay like $20,000 for an engagement ring kind of thing, or like
And then on the flip side, on the female, like, you're not valued or important if you don't have someone doing these things for you
exactly, and it's meant to like it's really just meant to like shame people for not conforming to it.
or being in a relationship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then that too. Yeah, like to be in a relationship at all. Like they have the treat yourself on Valentine's Day if you're alone stuff. Like
It's all marketing. It's all
exactly.
a huge marketing scam. Where I mean, even you have the idea of Valentine's Day for women who will just buy gifts for their friends and just like
Oh, that
support them because they feel like, oh, I'm not in a relationship, but they also feel like shame and guilt,
now
and then
that is fucking shamelessly made up. That is that is like without a doubt like a guy in a boardroom said like we need to somehow squeeze money from people who aren't in a relationship.
all these women are feeling bad that they don't have a Valentine. Let's make a holiday that's for them only,
Yeah, exactly. So it's
intertwined. And then now you also have Palentines, which is like a non-female version of Valentine's.
so like you get your guy friends presents or some shit.
Whoever you associate as a pal,
Okay. Yeah. No.
just so it's not gender specific,
See, I like
which is solely marketing.
100%. Like I already give into enough bullshit of like getting people gifts, and I don't enjoy buying people gifts. Like it's not that like I hate it. I not that I hate spending money on other people. It's just like I never know what to get people. I never know what's like appropriate, and like it's
Right, but also you shouldn't feel forced to get something a gift just because some company makes a universal holiday that guilts you into it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so I'm trying to limit myself to Christmas and birthdays. Do something like Chinese New Year's, where everyone just gives you a stack of cash.
Yeah,
Yeah, like just
I mean that's what
once a
they
year.
do
Once a year.
sometimes.
That's all.
Christmas.
But like no Christmas, just like once a year, everyone gives each other a stack of cash.
They also do that for Easter too sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, I guess that's true.
People who celebrate it.
Yeah, it's why I can't be a practicing Jewish guy because I can't buy 7 different gifts. Like even if the total amount of the gifts costs less than like one big gift for Christmas, like it's the stress of having to think of 7 different things. I'm just
Yeah.
no. I'm not. I can't do it. I can't do it. It's too. That's more than anything. It's not the cost of the gifts that matters to me. It's the quantity of the gifts.
So your quantity over quality.
Yeah, exactly. So, or no, the opposite. The opposite. Like what I hate is quantity over quality.
Right.
Like it's like the thing that I hate the most is the process of buying the gift, not necessarily financial hit from that. So
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I'd rather get something that put some effort into it, even if it's like something made, homemade, or someone took the effort into doing it.
see, that's why I can't get creative on the holidays. That's why I can't deal with this quarantine. I can't make things.
Well, I mean, or just some form of gift that provides a bit of shows you put some thought into it.
Yeah. See, I don't like putting thought into things, so I can't do it.
They're pretty inexpensive too.
Yeah. uh, See, it's not the cost. It's like
The effort.
it's the effort. Yeah, it's the effort. It's the pressure to be creative.
You rather just spend a lot of money and not put the effort into it.
Exactly. I can't. Yeah, no, can't do it. Can't do
I mean, that's why we come from both two different industries.
it. Yeah, see, you get paid to be creative for a living. I get paid to do money shit.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, you're probably yeah. You can be as creative as you want because like this is just what you do. But I I'm not I'm not creative like that. I don't know how to.
I'm sure
I don't
you
know how
are in
to.
some stance. You just
No, I can be creative in certain things, but like if I have to like manufacture like think of a thoughtful gift, I can't do it. I can't.
the anxiety
Can't.
spikes.
Yeah, no, can't do it. So that's what I mean. Like it's that's the worst part, and that's why I hate. That's why I hate these made up holidays, even if like they only require me to get a card.
Right.
I think the positive end is like no one's actually keeping track of anything that's not like a statutory holiday. Like statutory holidays, like people have to pass a law about it, but you can just declare any day National Blank Day.
Right, but like a group has to kind of go along with it for it to be
Yeah, it's
something.
true. So like I always imagine like someone was making fun of like it was like National Menstruation Awareness Day or something like that, and that's like obviously that's not like a legally recognized holiday anywhere, but it was probably like the good people at Tampax or something decided like, okay, you know what, we need to make up a holiday. Let's just settle on June because it's not close to any other holiday, and yeah, we'll just take it from there, and then we'll just run with it.
Right.
And it's just like whoever in the private sector like starts doing something first, then they just become the authority on it. It's like how like Guinness just or like Guinness just got into world records and now they're the authority on world records, and then Michelin, the tire company, started making food guides and food rating systems, and they somehow
Became the
became the
go-to.
definitive authority
Yeah.
on food quality. Yeah, it's I think it's just whoever makes it up first, unfortunately. So yeah, no, not into Valentine's Day in that sense. Yeah, just I need I don't care for in a similar vein to
Forced feelings and
diamond
forced.
yeah, diamonds and shit. I'm not I don't feel I don't feel like I shamed into buying
or not buying.
into paying someone 20 yeah shamed into paying someone $20,000 just because like they made some shit up 100 years
You
ago.
know, that's what you have to do.
Sorry, so a thought.
Yeah.
I've heard that the reasoning behind expensive engagement rings is, before women really had careers of their own. The idea is that like if your husband died or just left or something,
You'd
you
have
could
that ring.
hawk off the ring, and yeah, you have money to take care of your family um,
I mean, yeah, that
for
makes
a little
sense.
bit. Yeah, because jewels are fantastic for hawking off in an emergency.
Well, they hold their value.
Exactly. Well, and they're small. They don't decay. Like they're a convenient kind of alternative currency.
Right.
Like when the Romanovs were fleeing Russia, like they strapped all the palace jewels to themselves so they could hawk it off and like create a new life for themselves in exile.
How much
Yeah.
do male wedding rings cost? Engagement rings.
Uh,
You also get a ring as well. So how expensive
yeah.
or unexpensive are those?
Well, let's see. So, it's they're kind of in like the $200-$500 range.
Wow,
Um,
there's a
so
big
like for like
discrepancy.
kind of a simple. Yeah, yeah. No, there's quite a big. See, because the thing is there's no jewel on it usually.
No, no blinged out.
Exactly, it's just a band. So
Right, but you can
it's
get that
not.
all blinged out with diamonds.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You can. Oh my god! Like I'm looking at a website right now, and oh, there's ones that are so tacky, and I love it. Like there's this one that's just got like black onyx, but then it has like jewels of every different color flanking it. It's oh boy, it's bad, but and it's somehow only $300.
Wow.
I kind of want this horrible ring, but uh, yeah. So you could get a tricked out wedding ring, but I think like the main thing that costs money on an engagement ring is just the center stone.
Right.
Yeah,
But then also like the
which
band might be made out of diamonds or
yeah, yeah, that's true. Or yeah, it'll have diamonds in it, but like for like a simple men's wedding band, like usually it's just metal.
right.
Yeah. So it's a oh man, some of these are like brushed titanium. I kind of want one with like turquoise on it.
I mean,
Like
you
that's
you have the right to ask for it.
yeah, that's what I'm gonna go for. I don't want to pay too much money for it just because, but I do want that glorious turquoise. I like turquoise.
Oh, it looks like you're getting a turquoise ring.
Hell yeah! If anyone's listening.
So what's the status with going back to work with your company? Has there been any
Oh,
talks
so
or
yeah, that's the thing. The further along we've gone, the less talk there's been. So
they're just happy with how it
basic,
is?
yeah. So basically, like what's been going on, and I'm sure a lot of other workplaces are like this. Is when quarantine started, people were like asking, "Oh, when are we going back to work? When are we going back to work?" And they'd say like, "We're issuing like a stay at home, a work from home order from like March until the end of May, kind of thing."
Yeah.
And then they'd extend it, and then they'd extend it, and then finally, they just said like, "We're we're doing the stay from home indefinitely, but we'll give you 90 days notice for when you actually
Need to go back to work.
have to go back to work." Yeah. So, which is nice, but unfortunately, it did mean I could relocate to Barbados
And just
if
work
I had taken the
remotely and
opportunity.
live on the beach.
Exactly. I really should have
I mean,
done
it's pretty
that, and I kind of
smart for
regret
them
not
to
doing that.
do that and incentivize going there and working there.
Yeah, no, that was genius actually. But I did not think of it at the time, and then I already signed my lease on my new
Yeah.
apartment, so it's now it's just going to be a pain in the ass to move. So the thing is, I don't want to like if as tempting as the offer is, especially to like live in a country that's cheaper than this one, it's actually quite expensive if you're only going to be doing it for a little bit because like you just have moving costs and storage costs and that sort of thing. But like had I started this all from scratch and like knowing what I do now, I probably would have gone to Barbados had I had the opportunity, or had I thought of it at the time.
Right.
But smart of them.
They probably got some more business because of it, but again,
Oh, I'm sure.
I don't know about the whole restrictions with traveling now, and you
Yeah,
have to
I mean
you
that.
have to have one of those jobs
If
that actually is capable of doing that too.
Yeah, you'd have to have a remote work job, but like it was a good idea because like I'm sure it at least partially made up for the loss of tourism.
Somewhat.
Yeah. Well, I think you would need fewer full time workers to make up for a tourist because they stay longer, like they're more likely to spend money in more places than like a short term tourist. Like a short term tourist like would just spend money at the hotel, like tipping the wait staff there,
Buying drinks, yeah.
eating there, buying drinks, that sort of thing. Like they, especially in like, yeah, especially if you're going on a resort vacation. And apparently, cruise ship passengers are the worst because a cruise ship passenger only stays for a couple hours, buys a little bit, and then leaves. But like, really clogs up the place. So there's kind of been this movement of places that suffer over tourism to kind of get rid of cruise ships because they're like the lowest quality tourists in terms of like they generate the least amount of money compared to how much space they take up.
Really.
Whereas like longer term tourists, if you stay like a week instead of a day, like your odds are you're spending more money at more different
Yeah.
places and like having a better economic impact. And more importantly, if you stay longer, you're not just going to like the main tourist hotspots. So like if you went to Paris and stayed for like 2 days, obviously you'd see the Louvre, the Eiffel Tower, maybe the Palace of Versailles, and Notre Dame. But if you stayed for like a week, you might see like smaller museums, uh, less popular cathedrals, that sort of thing. So like you'd take up less space at the main sites.
Right, and allocate your time to like different things.
Yeah, and that's actually like a big solution to over tourism is like ironically encouraging people to stay longer because they take up less space at the places that are traditionally overcrowded, and they spend more money at more places, and yeah, just contribute more to the economy relative to how much space they take up.
So how would you convince people to stay longer? Just reduce prices?
You could one of the solutions. So Venice was thinking of banning cruise ships.
Yeah.
But another thing you could do is you could offer like an extended stay discount. Like not necessarily that you'd pay less, but you'd pay less per day.
Yeah.
It'd be like your hotel might be like $100 a day if you stayed 2 nights, but it'd be like $50 a day if you stayed a week, kind of thing. So
Yep.
there's that. The issue is like kind of getting different industries to cooperate because even though it's kind of a prisoner's dilemma because even though it will benefit everyone if everyone does that, like if everyone encourages long-term tourism, it might not it's not worth it for the individual hotel, for example, to offer that kind of discount, and it might be more worth it for them individually to appeal to more shorter term tourists.
Right.
And then there's also Airbnb. Airbnb is also a huge drain on that
Right. I mean, they've
because it's
taken
short
a
term
lot of
rental.
backlash too with the COVID restriction
Yeah,
regulations.
yeah, and in some ways it's like the main backbone of Airbnbs, which was essentially like turning condo buildings into like legally gray hotels, has kind of backfired on them.
Right. I mean, and also
So
people are trying to stay on their feet and pay for bills, find ways to
yeah, I
keep a
mean,
roof under their head.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, exactly. So like if you have Airbnbs taking up condo buildings, then it increases rent prices and housing prices in these cities that suffer from over tourism. Like for example, Paris or Barcelona or Venice, because you can't really get an apartment because it's all just taken up by
Yeah.
Airbnbs because people are more willing to pay for a hotel than
Deal with that.
yeah, then yeah, or they generate more money from the condo being essentially a hotel than a long-term rental. And we had that in Toronto, where the Ice Tower is essentially just a hotel.
Yep.
It's entirely rented out as Airbnbs to tourists and
We
partiers.
knew someone who lived there, but let's just not name it.
Yes, yes. He who must not be named. Sorry, another thing countries are trying to do to discourage over tourism in like one place. So, one of the things that countries have been doing to fight over tourism, basically, apply the principle of getting tourists to stay longer, but applying it on a nationwide scale. Instead of in Paris, for example, they'd want you to stay in other parts of France. So kind of travel around the country, stay in different parts of the country, and spread those tourism dollars around.
Right, so it's not so dense in one place.
Exactly. So instead of just staying in Paris, like maybe you go to La Rochelle, or La Rochelle is a bad example because it's on the coast, but maybe go to I don't know, Rouen or something like that, or Boulogne-sur-Mer. Sorry, my French is terrible. Yeah, like there's hundreds of small towns like all across France that all have like beautiful medieval cathedrals, beautiful countryside, beautiful museums, that sort of thing. And encouraging people to see those instead of just
The
flocking
main
to Paris and
attractions.
crowding. Yeah, and like crowding the Eiffel Tower, posing for photos, leaning on it. They're trying to get people to like kind of spread out, and it's and I would encourage people to do that because it's pretty easy to go just a little outside of Paris to the small towns around it by train. Like it costs almost nothing. Like one town that I think has been trying to do this, and I think has had some success, is Beauvais. So like Beauvais is like maybe 100 kilometers north of Paris,
Yeah.
or north of the outskirts of Paris, and they have an airport there, and it's like an alternative to flying out of Charles de Gaulle. So, but you can fly all over Europe from Beauvais Airport, and you can catch a like a commuter train to there. But it has a beautiful cathedral, like medieval cathedral called Saint Pierre there, and it's gorgeous. Like it's as gorgeous, if not more beautiful than Notre Dame. But so what they've had success in doing is have people fly from Paris or to Paris through their airport and like just commute to and
Right.
from the city, but like spend some time in Beauvais, like looking around at things, like just while you're here. It's a beautiful little town. So it's that's one of the tactics they've used. So they just have an alternative airport that people can use to get to and from Paris, but like they just kind of like lure them in with that, and then you can stay for a little bit, see all the sights. Obviously, that can't work for everyone because I mean you're gonna have like there's plenty of towns that aren't close to Paris, like I don't know, like getting people to go see Toulouse instead instead of Paris, kind of thing. Like you won't towns around there probably won't be able to use their proximity to Paris and like having a cheaper airport to like leverage it so
Right.
tourists come there.
There
But
should be options to incentivize checking out the smaller places.
exactly, it's I think it'd lead to a richer tourism experience. It would go easier on the people of Paris, and it would spread the tourism dollars around, especially places like Europe where the economies are so centralized in their large capital cities, like especially Britain and France. So much of their economies are centralized in Paris and London, respectively, reverse respectively. It's probably good for their society as a whole to have economic power shift a little more to smaller cities.
Yeah.
Though, I mean, I don't especially want to go to Manchester, so.
Right. I mean,
So it doesn't.
those are all our potential
Yeah,
goals
not for England.
when traveling is an option.
Yeah, that's it. See, okay, so here's the thing I've never understood. People come to Toronto as
Yep.
tourists. Why?
Why not? What do you mean why? It's just like any other city. It's got its appeal and
I don't
attractions.
know, but like, I just like, is it the shopping? Is it the sights? Is it like I got it when like we had like the tallest building in the world. Like that's something to see, but like I don't know. there's like I like living here. It's just like I don't really see a reason
Probably
to
because you
come
live
here.
here.
Yeah, that's true. It could be that, but like I don't know. I think if I didn't live here, I don't think I would come here.
You wouldn't visit?
Like
I mean, I'm sure people
no, I
people
don't think
see
so.
it public or people from Toronto and it's like synonymous with Canada, so they're like, let's check out Toronto and see how it is.
Maybe it's just like it's. I kind of feel like the same way. There's not a whole lot of reasons for me to visit like Columbus, Ohio.
Right.
Like other than Guy Fieri is from there. Like there's enough reasons for me to like visit New York. Why like okay, but maybe it's like that's just me. Like I like to. I'm a history nerd tourist. So like I like to look at the museums and the old buildings and you know the sites where so and so got killed or where so and so's
That's why
tomb
you wouldn't
is
visit Toronto because
or
we're
where
not
such and such trade.
historically
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
significant to you.
yeah, it's pretty much, I guess. Yeah, if when it comes down to it, maybe that's the only reason. Like, cause I don't care as much about shopping, though. Food in terms of food, Eddie Huang did say we were like tied for first as the best food city in North
We
America.
do have a lot of options because of how culturally
Yeah,
diverse we are.
yeah, so that's cool. But then on the other hand, I think like, well, if I come to Toronto for Indian food, I might as well go to India.
Right, but then in India you can
You know what
just
I mean?
get Indian food, whereas in Toronto you can get a bunch of different other foods.
Yeah, that's true. I got when I was in Paris, I got Laotian food. Good, that was an experience.
I mean, it's good to explore and try
Wasn't
new
much.
things.
It was tasty. Yeah, I just yeah maybe I think you're right. Maybe it's just because I live here that I just don't care. It's like oh what the hell this isn't special. This is just where I live.
So yeah, going back to working at home in offices, do you have any reason of going back? Do you want to go back? Do you prefer working at home or not?
Oh, see, yeah, that's the thing. I feel like part of me wants to go back because it just adds structure to my
Yep.
day a little bit. Like and but more importantly it like properly delineates what is work time and what is
Leisure time and yeah.
personal time, which and that cuts both ways in that like I have to like I don't get distracted with personal tasks like I don't know like a package just arrived for me or like I feel like I gotta do
Or
my
making food
dishes
or
when I'm at home before I do
distractions,
lunch.
TV
Yeah,
or like
exactly.
social media.
Yeah, exactly. Or like I notice my like my shelf is dusty and I gotta go dust it before
Get onto a Zoom call.
I continue with my work. Yeah, it blurs it both ways. And then on the other hand, like if you have a lot of work, it's easy to just like work the whole night and then
Not separate the two
just
yet.
exactly. And it's good to have that separation, I think, because like otherwise like you just like move from your desk to and you stay at your desk, to watch YouTube videos or Netflix, and just the whole day just
Oh yeah,
blurs
100%. Like
together.
helps with your mental health and
Yeah,
like in moving from like a kitchen to like a living. What helps you
yeah,
because
exactly.
you don't see yourself like in the same spot for the whole entire day, and then having to live there.
Yeah, like because I had a week where I had a lot of work, and I worked late most nights, and like I really fully lost track of what day
Right.
it was, like and which day was which because they all just blended together. I thought like, oh god, it's only Tuesday, and it turns out it was Thursday
Yeah.
because like there was no like distinguishing feature of one day or another. So I think I'm gonna enjoy it going back. On the other hand, have I ever gone on a rant against open concept
I don't think
offices?
so, but I have my take on that too.
I am not into open concept offices. I want my cubicle. I want to be left alone. Like more, like nothing helps me work more than just being left alone to
Right.
work in private kind of thing. And I feel like I work best in a cubicle. But if I go back and I don't have a cubicle and I have an open concept office space, I don't know if I'll be as productive as I am at my home office.
I mean, for me, having worked in both environments, corporate and creative, I personally like cubicles in some sense because obviously the silence and like being getting more work done, more focused. But then on the creative side, like if you have all your team right beside you, you can just ask them for questions or like get them to look at your screen for advice or whatnot. So it helps in that regards.
Yeah, yeah. See, so I'm at the point where like I teach my coworkers like I answer more questions than I
Yep.
ask. So it's a and you know I'm trying to limit the time I spend answering questions to like designated times during the day, and that's I feel like that's easy. That might be easier in a home office setting, but I could be wrong on that.
I mean, yeah, I mean,
But
there's pros and cons to both sides. The open concept also, it's really noisy concept offices,
yeah,
and from
which
like telephones going off to people's conversations, which is why a lot of
oh
open
I know.
concept offices, everyone's just on their headphones because they're just either trying to drown out the noise around them to
Oh yeah.
focus, whereas a cubicle you can kind of stay silent and focus on what's inside, what's important.
Exactly, yeah. Which you know, I bought my like full head headphones, so I'll be able to do that. Man, so if your office if your office decides like they have like a no headphones rule and they're open concept, fuck me, dude. Like that is sadistic. That is
Yeah, didn't you get in
like
shit for wearing headphones?
yeah, yeah, I did one time, which like you know in fairness to that time, I did have my own office. So like I was like listening to headphones on my own in
But you
my
also had like
office.
other people
So
working within that office too. Did you not?
the time I got in trouble for that, I don't know if I did or not.
Right.
But you know, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, okay, you know what? Sure, I had a nice silent office. Like, I didn't really need them for distractions at that point. Like, I was just finding the silence distracting. So like, I was listening to music while I was working away. But like you know, I don't really care for no headphones rules generally because you know whatever helps you work. And you know, I think people just need to be like obviously there's exceptions to that. Like if you're a retail worker, you don't want retail workers who should be answering customer questions wearing
Right. It's based
headphones
on
like while
the
they're on the
business.
floor.
Like if
But
it's customer facing, you don't want
yeah,
people distracted and like doing their own thing. You want them attentive.
yeah. But the most egregious wrong is to have
Open concept and
a no headphone, yeah, open concept and a no headphone. Like that's just sadistic.
right. I mean, it depends on also the environment too. A lot of the maybe older generation might think like, oh, they're on their headphones, they're not really doing work, they're just goofing off, not paying attention,
Yeah, which
which they can be,
I
but I
mean I
mean, at the
get.
same time, you want to
Yeah,
drown out some of that noise and try to focus.
yeah, and I think it's generally just bad for morale to like have people feel like they're being watched and scrutinized all the time. Like you know, not that they're like the quality of their work is being scrutinized, but like their activity is being scrutinized. Like people don't like having managers like over their shoulders like telling them like get to work, do this, do that. You should be working on this. Like I don't know.
No one wants someone to micromanage their workload.
exactly like no one likes being micromanaged, and like and I understand on a psychological level why people think they have to micromanage because they think nothing will get done otherwise. But on the other hand, like I think it's bad for morale, and it's like it teaches people to look busy,
To be
not
busy, yeah.
necessarily that to yeah to be busy. So I personally don't think it's good for an office, and you don't want your workers to resent being there.
Right, and think that they're always being watched and being able to do a job.
Yeah, and you know, if wearing the headphones like helps them get through the day, like I think that's probably not a bad
Right, I mean,
thing.
if the work's not
But
affected, then why not?
no, exactly, and I get like maybe you can't always monitor that or quantify that, so like you're just kind of going off it intuitively that you know oh if they're listening they're not actually doing
Or
work.
focus, right? Yeah.
So like so but it's that's based on an assumption, not necessarily
Reality, what's
on
happening.
on reality. Yeah, I'm just gonna see if there's any studies on that. Let's see. Surprising results on wearing headphones and productivity. Trying to okay, coworkers are actually one of the biggest sources of distraction.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's what this study is saying. Like, as opposed to, okay, yeah. So this study's claiming that coworkers are the biggest source of distraction in the workplace, not headphones. So it's a This one is pro
Right.
headphones.
And also, I think the whole open concept versus cubicle, you're kind of less likely to bug someone if they're in a cubicle, and especially if you're on like maybe the other side of an office. Kind of have to make
Yeah.
sure your question is important enough to ask them something. Otherwise, it's just like,
Yeah, it puts like enough of a barrier that you have to
is
think
this
about
worth
it.
bugging them or like asking my question? Whereas with open concept, it's just like they're just readily available, so they'll just ask on a whim.
See, so that's a point against working from home
Right.
because you just ask people on
Or
Microsoft
Slack.
Teams or Slack or whichever or Skype or whatever thing you use, and it takes 5 seconds, so you can bug someone
Right.
really
It's the same thing as
badly.
an open concept.
Yeah, yeah, no. So that's something I've been dealing with. It's not just like my team. We have a lot of new people, like
Yeah.
all at once, and I'm one of the more senior people on the team. So like I do get asked like a lot of questions, and I don't resent the people for asking because they don't know I've also gotten a million questions from other people, and they're not being irresponsible with their questions. It's just it adds up.
Yeah, and you can get
Like
overloaded
if
with all
you're
the other questions that you have to answer.
yeah, and then you spend 15 minutes answering someone's question, and then the next person, and then the next person,
And
and
then
then
you
the
actually
whole
have work to
morning's
do.
gone. So exactly, and then yeah, you spend so like it. That's actually something I found is actually pretty tricky. Like trying to
Prioritize.
balance your own
Yeah.
workload. Like and I've come to realize like I have to put more into my own work because like no one's gonna do my
Exactly.
work for
So
me.
you're spending more
So
working
so
than
like I have to be
if you were
responsible.
working in an office.
Yeah. So though maybe if I would, yeah, maybe if I was in an office, like, people would see that, oh, I can't bug him. Someone
Or he's
else is
not
bugging him
at his
right
desk,
now. So
so I can't really ask him that. I
it's,
got to figure it out on my own.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Which, yeah, and so that's like, that's another thing I've been trying to figure out, in how to balance. Like when you mentor someone at your work and you're trying to teach them how to do things, it's tricky to kind of balance. Like, okay, I want to be able to help this person, and like I want to be able to show them how to do this thing. But I
Figure it
also
out on
want them
themselves first. Yeah.
to do this on try it on their own first. Yeah, like maybe I'm not actually helping this person by like holding their hand through it and telling them how to do it. Like it's like it's probably going to be better
Yeah, that's
for
one
them
of
if
the
they
things I
learn
found
how
out
this
that's
works and
really
try and
tough
figure it out on their
remotely
own.
with mentoring like a lot of creatives and interns. It's just that a lot of them need a little bit of handholding, but at the same time, like you want them to try something out themselves and then ask a question. How come this didn't work? Whereas you can't really do that now remotely. And a lot
Yeah,
of times there's a lot of like screen sharing, so like you can show them, oh, this is how I got to this result.
yeah,
In person, you can just show them really quickly. They can figure it out.
yeah,
It
exactly.
takes more time.
Yeah, so it takes more time. Yeah, yeah. So like, yeah, like you get 1.5 hour meeting and then 1.5 hour meeting and then 1.5 hour meeting. Like I said, like it's like if you could get your work done in 6 of the 8 hours a day, but like then all of a sudden you have like 3 hours worth of questions, then it becomes tricky. Yeah, so it's teach balancing how to teach people at work is tricky. It's a new experience for me, so it's something I've trying to learn the ins and outs of and kind of feel
Right.
my way. So I'm having to figure this
So now
out
that we're
on my own,
working from
kind
home,
of
do you
thing.
think that like there's no
So,
such thing now as like work culture?
no, I think like places that so okay, so I started my job at the beginning of quarantine. So I've never
In an
really
office, and what's
experienced
that
my
like?
job exact. So as far as I can like I still see like there's a work culture that kind of comes through in terms of like we try and have meetings, we try and do fun things together. I don't know if that's something that they
Maybe they
started
just
during
developed it
quarantine.
recently or
Yeah, exactly. Or yeah, to like help people cope with
managed.
quarantine and
Yep.
like still like kind of keep in touch. But so like I'm sure it probably suffered a little bit just from people not being around each other. But I like the work culture at my company. Like I think people are helpful, people are friendly. Like it feels like people aren't in it for themselves and that sort of thing. So
shows that like people have your back.
Exactly. Like I think my work's managed to foster a good work culture while while I've been there. But and the irony of it all is like I'm not really a person who believed in work culture
Right.
before this. Yeah, like I'm sure you have your own take on this because you're kind of a booster of that. But I didn't really believe in work culture. Like I thought it was mostly just like I
Yeah.
thought it was just marketing. Like we say like, oh, we have a great work culture, and it's just like it's like how every job description says competitive pay or something to that effect. Like no job description
Right.
says
Just like
good
a
pay.
disclaimer that to
Like
kind of get you interested.
exactly like it's kind of I thought it was just kind of like standard corpo speak that you had to say you had a positive corporate culture, but like and but now I like working at one place versus working at another place. I've noticed like 100% a lot of places do have a better corporate culture than the other, though both will
The same thing that
claim
they have.
exactly. So it's really hard. I think it's impossible to tell, at least from
Yeah, no,
where I am,
100%.
like whether they're legitimate.
Talk to a lot of recruiters and HR individuals, and it's like that's one of the main things that you really can't describe. You just really have to work there and understand what that culture is. A lot of cultures aren't
Yeah.
great, and even though they say they are, a lot of companies aren't collaborative. Even though every company I've worked at says that they're collaborative and people will help you out if you need it, which is not true at all. But I mean, you have to, and the only way I found that out was by working. You see, obviously, various groups that form and who are willing to help, and people who aren't. And some of the mentioned to you before that like work culture wasn't even a thing. Like maybe 5, 10 years ago, no one knew what that was. I remember talking to interviewing someone, and I asked them like what the work culture was, and they had no idea what I was talking about. They're just like, yeah, we know, we talk to each other once in a while. I'm like, it's not really work culture. I don't know if you're selling your company well during this
Yeah,
interview. And
yeah.
she just fumbled and didn't know what she was talking about. But yeah, not
Fair,
all these
yeah.
companies try to kind of evoke that they're collaborative, but you really have to kind of work there to get a gist of who your employees are.
Yeah. Well, a lot of companies I've seen like in their work culture they'll have like some kind of acronym or like five company values or something like that. And even if you read them and agree with them, they're like generally like
BS.
uncontroversial points. So like you can't really derive any real information from them because it doesn't matter like whether that rule is on the books. What matters is like whether or not that's
Implied or like forced, reinforced.
yeah implemented. Yeah. So I've grown to having. So I think like my current job is my first experience with what I think is or what I feel to be is a genuinely positive work culture. And it's made me appreciate much more its impact because so for example I get emails from recruiters sometimes and normally and usually I don't bother with them too much. These days I don't at all because I'm pretty happy with where I
Yeah.
work. But it got me thinking because so if I look at a job and it pays a little bit more, has slightly better benefits, and I'm obviously qualified to do it. Had I been at a company that I hated working at and had a bad corporate culture, I wouldn't have given it a second thought. Like it's like okay, I'm gonna get more money and get away from these guys. Like sign me up. I'm
Yeah.
going. But now my bar is much higher because
You have that experience, and you know what it's like.
but there's a risk to it. There's a risk to leaving your job. Like once you find a good corporate culture, we've been talking about how it's hard to find if a corporate culture is good, whether you unless you
Yeah.
work there. So you can't tell looking at the company website. You can't tell looking
Any reviews or anything yet.
um, at the job description exactly. You can only really tell from working there. So uh, the risk of me losing the positive corporate culture is huge. And what that means is like if I have like if there's a job that offers that basically gives me the same role but offers me a little bit more money, like I won't
Risk it because you know what you have.
consider the
Yeah.
risk exactly because like the risk of leaving my good leaving my good team that I like is too great because I have no way of knowing if the team I'm going to will be good. And like, and I'm not going to say like I'm going to just stay in my job forever because like because I like my team and I fear losing my team, but my threshold for what would motivate me to leave my team is much higher. Like I'd have to make significantly more money to think about leaving this job because of that.
Right, and you never know. Like your new opportunity could be more pay, but you could have like a really toxic boss who is really
Exactly.
tough to work with, and that ends up leaving you wanting to leave that company because you can't deal with the boss, but the pay's so good.
Exactly. And so like I have to evaluate that risk and I have to think like the amount of money I have to make at a new job would have to be enough that I could withstand the risk of
All that toxicity.
yeah of, whereas like if I already have a toxic boss or a boss I hate, like that's not even a consideration because like if it's as bad as here, at least I'll make more money.
Right. I mean, they say that
So
people don't leave jobs; they leave bosses.
yeah, yeah, that's yeah, yes and no. Like I've definitely left a job before because I've done both. I've done both. I've worked at two jobs I would say were pretty high stress jobs, and and in one of those jobs, like I had a boss I actually liked a lot because it was my first job out of university. He took a chance on me. He was really nice, but the job was very high stress. So in that case, I left the job. But in other circumstances, you're definitely right.
But were
It's
they high stress because
uh,
of your workload, or just because of what was demanded from you?
it was like the workload and the nature of the work kind
Right.
of thing. So it was both of those things, which like, and that's not really my boss's fault. Um, though my role probably should have been split into a few different roles, and as it turns out, it later
Right.
was. But like you know, they needed like a separate person running orders and a separate person handling customer orders and a separate person doing the
Right. So it's
orders.
also
So
like a company management issue too.
eh, which fair enough, fair enough. It was definitely like in my brain it was mostly so yeah, you're right from that perspective. Like you know, management could have made changes that made my job better, but
This new guy's being overworked.
yeah, and but I yeah, that was a case I definitely felt I was, but despite all that, I think I mostly hated the job,
Yeah.
but rather than like the circumstances of the
Hmm.
job. But yeah, in other cases, I've definitely just left a boss because I didn't really hate the work I was doing. Like, and it's similar to the job I got
Yeah.
afterwards. It was really that was entirely about the environment. It's
Which again is what work culture is, right? And you can only
yeah,
gauge that once you're there.
yeah, and you know, like I said, I wasn't a believer before, but that's because I never experienced what I think was a positive or like an exceptionally positive work
Right.
environment. And but now that I've experienced, I'm totally a believer. Like it like, and I think it's important for employers to understand it because it's something that's hard to to quantify. But and I think companies don't like to do things that they can't quantify. Like how do you quantify
They need
like
reasoning and
people
data and
being supportive?
rationale and stuff
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
defend it.
Exactly. How do you quantify being supportive or teamwork or things like that? But it's nonetheless it's important. Like in terms of just in terms of employee retention, like it adds so much unseen value that people are willing to stay at their jobs because they don't want to risk losing the positive work environment. There's a value to that. Like, there's definitely a monetary value to that. It's just hard to put to paper.
Right. Or kind of explain that to potential candidates because
Yeah,
it's more of
exactly.
a
It's all
experienced thing than
yeah
yeah.
qualitative. Yeah, I mean, you could quantify it in terms of like employee satisfaction surveys, that sort of thing. But it's trick. I would say it's definitely trickier than hard numbers. But like, I mean, if you tried something and you could still extract data from it in terms of like employee satisfaction, employee retention, that sort of thing. So like
Productivity.
it's something you could, yeah, so you can quantify the results of it. It's just it's difficult. It's more difficult than just simply paying people.
Or numbers, or is it the more benefits you're going to get? Vacation
Exactly.
days.
And I think I've become a bigger believer in the importance of employee morale, and I think that's something people have overlooked because it's not a number.
And then from just the numbers sense that a lot of recruiters know, it's just it's more expensive to hire someone and then them leaving and hire someone new than to keep someone.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's always more expensive to same thing with marketing. I'm sure everyone knows like it's more expensive to get new customers than to retain old customers, but like for employees probably more so because like at least you don't have to spend all that downtime kind of getting them up to speed, teaching them how to work. Like you don't lose all those months of productivity like getting up to speed. I don't know how long it takes for an employee in the average job to like kind of get up to speed, but it's definitely a couple months.
Depends on the job, yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the job, but like it's definitely a little bit like before you have the experience necessary to like kind of do things on your own and be at 100%
And feel
productivity.
comfortable. And then if you're not, then having to do that all over again with someone new.
Exactly. And then, it's you need the sometimes they might have skill sets that like other people on the team don't have. So like if you lose them, then you lose that knowledge that you didn't know you needed until that person's gone. Like I was working somewhere and this one woman did all of these reports for the company and no one else knew how they worked. And she left to go to a different job and she had only a couple weeks
To teach
to
you,
teach me how to
yeah.
do how to do all those reports, which I ended up having to do, which but like the issue was is they were quarterly reports. So
They don't need to be done at a
uh
certain time,
yeah, and so like I've only practiced doing them
quarterly.
like in 3 months I'd only have done it once. So it's the catch up time on that productivity is even longer.
Right.
So it's yeah, I think people undervalue
More culture.
work culture. Yeah. And I would not have said that 2 years ago.
Because
Like
now you're in a situation where it's you actually know what it's
yeah,
like.
yeah, and yeah, now I'm a believer. Like and before I would have said no, it's all bullshit. All companies are the same. They all say that they're doing the same thing, but they don't actually. And so don't even pay attention to it. Only pay attention to the money. The issue now is like I now value work culture, but I still don't know how to assess a company before taking a job. Maybe check those Glassdoor reviews.
I don't think they tell anything.
You don't think?
No.
Like just because like
Well, I mean, I've seen a lot of negative reviews on good companies and vice versa.
okay,
But for
yeah,
me, I mean, I worked a lot of jobs in different industries, and there's no way you can tell good work culture from a bad one until you actually get the job and work there.
yeah. You know what? I'm trying to.
And I've been in
I,
situations where a company had really great work culture, and then certain individuals left the company, and then it was really bad afterwards.
okay, so do you think that like? So I always wondered like. I don't actually know how to implement a good work culture. That's not a thing. Like as even though now I understand like it's important, I still don't fully understand how it's implemented. And what the unfortunate thing about it is it makes me think that maybe it's not the company's policy itself that's driving this. Maybe it's like individual managers.
Right? Yeah, it depends
And
on
so
the company too.
if it's personality driven, then it's precarious. Like then you're not actually like if it's personality driven, then it's not actually a good company culture. It's just one good manager.
Right. I mean, yeah, it depends on with this company that I worked at. There was no company-driven work culture kind of initiative. It was just like these individuals that took it among themselves to do group sessions or like go out, treat someone to a birthday, get together. And now like
Yeah,
companies have that like as like mandatory things just to give a shit. Like apply to a job, they'll ask you for like your birthday just as like a backup. Yeah, we care about you, but we won't really do anything until it's your birthday.
yeah.
So it's weird.
It's tricky because like sincerity is very hard to gauge.
But
Like because like something like sincerity isn't like something quantifiable. It's a feeling. like something feels sincere or doesn't. So like you know a birthday party can feel like sincerely they care about like they care about you and the work you're doing,
Plus, it's
but it
personal,
can
right?
also feel phony.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It could feel totally phony, but yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, I mean, you can never really tell if it's like company driven or like an individual just really cares about like your well being and then launches an initiative to like keep people's morale high.
Yeah, yeah, and but like then if you see that it's just due to like if you see like oh they're doing this instead of like giving us better hours or better pay, then it's I don't know hard, it can come across as insincere and then it does nothing.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. It's this is something someone more qualified than I would have to write books on, and even then it might not even work.
Right. I mean, are you in a place in your company to like do initiatives like that, or is it more like corporate down? This is what we do as a company because that's how you launch these work culture morale initiatives. Is some like honestly on the creative side, it's mostly individual based, but then once they see that everyone is a lot more happier and productive, it becomes more of a company thing.
Yeah,
If
and
no one speaks up or launches, I mean, they'll just keep doing it the
yeah,
same way.
yeah. Like directors see their manager doing it this way, and their team's doing well, so like they get all the other managers to do it a particular way. So it, it does, it goes bottom up then
Right,
to
trickle, trickle.
yeah, yeah, it spreads that way. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. But so like back to the reviews thing. So I feel like glean a little bit of insight because like always there's going to be the disgruntled employee who
Just hates because they get laid up or something.
exactly like they did something and got fired or like because they just left now they're or like had a bad experience they're leaving and it's not necessarily reflective of a typical experience at the place. So like I think like in that sense it might like it might drive it down. I feel like there's definitely a line. If you like if you see a pattern of people like and it's not just like anomalies, then I think you can determine that you could find some red flags, and it also depends on how specific their complaints are. So like there's a je ne sais quoi about there's a je ne sais quoi about companies approval ratings on Glassdoor because I think there's you can tell on the extreme ends. For example, I'm looking at two companies I've worked at before. One of the companies has 4-star ratings, so their rating is 4 stars on Glassdoor. 81% would recommend to a friend. 94% approve of the CEO.
Right.
So to me, what that tells me is like, it's mostly good, and there's like the anomalous few people with a bad
Sure.
experience. Um, Whereas another company I've worked for, their rating on Glassdoor is less than 2 stars. So it's like in that case, I would suspect something is amiss.
Right. Be
Like give
cautious.
it just given the consistency of negative reviews.
But I mean, also, I think just with any kind of review platform, whether it's Google or Glassdoor, you can also have positive reviews of people who don't even work there.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And maybe that's a symptom of like large companies versus small companies. That large companies can pay their HR team to create lots and lots of fake accounts to flood it
Positive.
with positive reviews, whereas others would not.
Right. Or they
Whereas
might not care and even know.
they might not care. Yeah. Whereas like larger companies are
More sensitive to.
yeah more sensitive to their social media image. So yeah, I think I'm a little more conscientious of Glassdoor reviews just because like I think it could have saved me a lot of trouble previously.
But I mean, I think
Yeah.
you working at, say, a bad place definitely helps you too because you're able to gauge what's not great about a company and then now you know what to look for.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It's hard, because like I did think before, like, okay, it's only going to be disgruntled employees, and in some cases that's true, and bigger companies can just add a million positive reviews to like mess up their numbers and make it disproportionately positive.
Right.
But I think you can kind of tell, just like qualitative, like human beings can kind of tell what comments are sincere, what comments aren't, and like what kind of feel manufactured by marketing, and what kind of feel sincere.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky, but I think you can gain valuable information from the reviews. Like even if you can't look at them at face value, you can use them for information.
Right.
All right. I think we'll stop that there. Thanks everyone for tuning in. You can find us on all your favorite podcast platforms. Don't forget to follow us on social media at podcast_above on Twitter, and the Above Average Podcast everywhere else. And tune in for our next episode on my conspiracy theory about parallel media outlets. Have a good one.